Mr. George Joseph, whom I've known for a while, and we're all big fans, and of course no stranger here. But I was intrigued to read about that he grew up in Pennsylvania. I got fooled. I really thought he was a hometown person, and even spent some time in Nebraska in education. Has spent his entire career, BS degree in education, and then went to Kent State University for graduate work in education as a leader within the education space, all the way from teaching at elementary school levels to executive director, administrative services, and his commitment to both community and our city schools has been exemplary for the last 7 years. He's been our superintendent, and we're very excited to hear about the progress and what's in the future for some pretty ambitious programs these guys are doing. George, welcome.
Doesn't matter which one you want.
Okay.
Just get close enough.
Good afternoon. We are very excited at the Kent City Schools to share the results of this past summer and phase 1 of our 2-year construction plan. And the slides that you're seeing today are actual pictures that were taken as we were planning and looking at making these adjustments. And again, I can't tell you enough how pleased we are that the community has provided us the opportunity to upgrade our facilities to match our education now that we provide our students here in the Kent City Schools. I do have a guest today, and his name is David Kleckner. He works directly with us, and we see him on a regular basis, but he is the manager from Shook Construction that we go to, and he will be sharing some things as I move forward through our slides. I wanted to also thank David Myers for finding the thumb drive that I provided him last week, but I brought another one just in case. So, but thank you. This first slide is showing our one area that, again, it's hard to see these until you see it in person, and that is the LED lighting installation. A lot of you drive by the high school at night and you've noticed the lights outside being brighter, I hope. That is a switch from the lighting that we had originally to the LED lighting, which is more cost efficient, but it's also brighter. And the slide that you see, I think it's the slide that you're looking at right now is just showing the lights that you can't see how bright they are, but it makes it really so bright that we now need to paint in areas we couldn't see before. But again, it's great to be able to see. And I just, again, I cannot imagine how our kids will react to the change in lighting in all of our schools. So that is one of the projects that was completed this summer. The next slide is showing phase 1 construction of the air conditioning units. And you can see in the center there, that's called a univent. The univents were 50 years old. We could not get parts for them. In fact, I learned just the other week from Randy that Randy asked, do you have those old parts? Because in this building, the same univents are here. And of course, you can't get parts for them. And I wouldn't want to really give you the parts that we pulled out because they were really corroded and bad. So for at least the church's offer, and is Randy here today? Okay, Randy, there you are. Okay, Randy, we have this next summer, 22, we can have people take a look at any of the parts that we're pulling out that might be a retrofit for here. So you missed the first round, but the second round you might be able to get. So again, those univents really are brand new. Not only did we pull out the units, but when we pulled them out, there was about 50 years of dust that collected in there as well. So we needed to power wash inside and out. So these unit vents are really, they were really needed. But in addition to the unit vent having the heating that we needed, we also are getting air conditioning. So all of our elementary schools, as of this week, have air conditioning that will be running. The other really interesting thing, and this is when you do a ventilation project or a HVAC system during a pandemic, you have to upgrade what you had originally planned. And that's exactly what we ended up doing. What our original plan was changed drastically with the pandemic. So right now, we added what the city has already put into their offices and what the university has already incorporated into their system, and that is called a bipolar ionization unit. That is a retrofit for old units that are not being replaced and an install from the factory of those units and those ventilators that came to us brand new. So I learned just this morning that the entire school district has bipolar ionization that would be included, whether it's built in from the factory or a retrofit. When we start the school year on the 25th of this month, we will have bipolar ionization, which actually cleanses the air as it comes through the fan. The other really important thing, which again, we needed to do because of COVID-19, is to get more fresh air from outside. The old units were only pulling 20 to 25% fresh air. The new units are pulling now 35% fresh air. And not only are they pulling 35% fresh air, but we just learned today that that fresh air turns over every 20 minutes. So in an hour's time, we have 3 times of fresh air being circulated through. So that's really going to help us when it comes to starting the school year in person 5 days a week. With that, go to the next slide, and that is talking about our secure vestibules for each of our buildings. Many of you have been in our buildings before, and you know, just as an example, I think the picture that you'll see eventually is the Holden Elementary entrance. When you walked into the building, you really had access to the entire building. There was really no vestibule. It was just you walked in the building, you could go anywhere you want because the office wasn't right there. So what we have done in our plan was to create a safer, more 21st century school entryway with a security vestibule. And in that vestibule is what's pictured up here. And that is it's called the Raptor system. And the Raptor system basically is a screen that you walk in, you take your driver's license, you scan it underneath on the pad, and it will then print out a visitor's badge for you. But in the process of printing out a visitor's badge, it's also checking your BCI and FBI and making sure that you're not a person who we should not allow into the building. Somebody did ask me, well, what happens if it does scan something that, well, it would not give you a badge and it would immediately alert administration in the building. So that's what would happen. So again, the secure vestibules, a part of that construction is the installation of these Raptor systems in each of the buildings. On the next slide, you'll see, and again, I believe this is Holden Elementary School, the actual secure vestibule that has that card key access. that would be in each of the vestibules. And many of you thought, well, at Roosevelt High School, where you walk in where the cafeteria is, there's already a vestibule there. But and again, you also would see a security person at a desk. We reworked that so that the Raptor system, which we already had at the high school, is then pretty much self-sufficient. And we still have the security person there, but the person's really there just to answer any additional questions that we may have from individuals visiting. Moving to the next slide. Another service that we upgraded was our electrical service. And it's not something that you can physically see, but it was definitely needed. Along with the new ventilation system and the air conditioning, a lot of our schools needed the extra power to run that system. So I know at Longcoy Elementary, we had to upgrade that power. At Davie, Davie was a pretty good sized school to begin with, but there was a power upgrade there. And again, this pictures just some of the upgrades that we're doing. In phase 2, we're going to have a brand new field house added to the south end of Roosevelt Stadium, also a new gymnasium. And with that, you need extra power as well. So behind the high school, there was a new power unit that was just installed. They took the smaller, older ones out at the stadium just yesterday and have replaced them with a larger unit. The next thing, which is part of the phase 1 construction, are basically the flooring replacements at Stanton. You would think, well, Stanton Middle School is our newest building at 20 years old. Well, the flooring is good for about 20 years. So we had to replace the flooring in our newest building at Stanton, and that's what we did this summer. So a lot of the flooring that we were forced to pull out because it was failing miserably has been replaced this summer. We are also replacing the flooring at Davie Elementary School, but that is not happening this summer. That has been pushed to phase 2. Okay. Our next slide shows that we have our gym floors at Holden and Walls. We have 2 brand new gym floors. And at Davie and Longcoy, we decided to refinish the floors there because the floors were in better shape than they were at Holden and Walls. So instead of replacing the flooring at Longcoy and at Davie, we just refinished the flooring. And again, for the layperson walking in, seeing that refinished floor, you would think it is brand new. And it's beautiful to see the wood floor at Davie Elementary School and how that turned out also at Longcoy Elementary. But here at Holden and Walls, the surface is a brand new surface, and it's an upgrade surface because we do roll tables over it for cafeteria use in the gymnasium. And again, we needed to make sure that it was a substance that would hold up pretty well to rolling things over, very similar to the floor that you see in here. With that, the next slide, I know many of you have probably, if you live close to Roosevelt Stadium, you have heard the construction happening there. I hope it hasn't been too loud, but there's a huge change if you were to walk over there and look at what has happened. The picture shows a massive, it looks like a parking lot, but what it is just stone. We dug out the field that was there, put in piping, and there's piping that could be 24 inches with holes that drain this field, or it could be 6-inch pipe that goes around the outside. Underneath that rock is a huge drainage system. And on top of that rock, this week, we are getting the artificial turf installed. Yes, we have red end zones, and it is a Roosevelt red. And we have a dark green turf, no blue, a dark green turf. Some people want us to put red turf in. No, we're not doing that either. But the red turf is in the end zones only. And yes, we will have a logo. And yes, we will have Rough Riders in the end zones as well. So we are very proud to have these changes so far. And again, everything to be on schedule. We are very lucky to have that happen as well. With that, I wanted to make sure that you understood what phase 2 would encompass. And I already mentioned that we had to push the Davy flooring off to phase 2. But along with that, we have, like I said, a high school new gym or a competition gym, the auditorium stage extension. What that is where our pit area is. We are actually raising the pit area up to match the stage so that you can walk right from the stage over where the pit is, and the stage is extended out. It will help with acoustics. It will also help with the fact that a lot of the sound during music performances goes up into the high ceiling in the stage area and is lost. With this protruding stage, it actually will come out into the audience. So you will notice a difference with the musical performances that are taking place in the auditorium. The rest of the auditorium, the seating, the carpeting, and so on will be done next summer in phase 2. Along with that, we have, again, the field house, and we also have some site civil work, which also includes the rerouting of Roosevelt Drive, also the reconstruction of the student and visitor parking so that it's next to the building rather than having Roosevelt Drive dividing that student and visitor parking from the building. So those are all changes that will happen next summer in 2022. I wanted to also update you on some of the site civil work. The next slide is up there already. Okay, the next slide shows you that that is a map of Route 43 that is just in front of Roosevelt High School. Sometime in October, we're going to have to cross Route 43 to get some lines put in. And that work will take place where it's going to have to go down to 1 lane. And so I wanted to give you a heads up that in October, that's happening. Now, I have to say, I frequently drive by the construction on Route 14. And I know that that has not been a really great way to travel on Route 14 in Streetsboro because it has been 1 lane during the day. So I definitely hope that we are able to keep 2 lanes moving, but it will be shifting of lanes on Route 43. So hopefully we will not be stopping traffic, but it'll be slowing it down just a little bit because of the construction that's going on there. The good thing is it will happen within a week's time, maybe a week and a couple days. So again, in October sometime, we will make sure you understand when that is happening. And then with that, the other work for the summer of 22, we are completing the HVAC upgrades to Roosevelt High School, to the rest of Davie, and upgrading and making sure that the completion of the field house is done, the gymnasium addition is done, the natatorium upgrades, which is the filtration system and some of the work and the bleachers in there. The Stanton roof replacement will happen next summer. And then finally, the Davy floor finishings that we pushed off until the summer of 2022. So with that, do you have any questions? And in fact, David Kleckner, if you want to come up and just share your insight to some of this.
What's the life expectancy of the stadium turf?
The life expectancy is 10 years, and we already have a replacement plan in place for that to happen. You didn't ask that question, though.
Okay, I saw Randy, and then would you pass it over to Doug?
The wall school addition, is that going to get rid of those trailers that have been back there for years and years and years?
We can only get rid of half of them. So only one double wide will be leaving.
With the new security system, with people entering the building, obviously for athletic events, theater events, other things, there's a lot of people coming in there at one time. How is that system impacted by that quantity of people?
Great question. We're using that system during the school day. The system will not be used in the evening because it would just be too difficult to do that.
Any other questions?
Am I correct? The new gym will be, when you do that next year, it'll completely reorient how we enter the building at night for athletic events?
It could. You could still go the same way through the cafeteria. And there's an entryway that way, which is going to be a longer way, but we will have parking in the back for the new gymnasium. So it depends on what you choose. Another question?
Okay, he keeps handing me the mic back. There you go, Doug.
With the upgrade of the mechanical systems, 35% new air and the whatever you call it kind of thing, how it might that, I realize the decisions might not be made, but how is that going to impact the startup of school this year and the quality of air in the interior of the rooms while we're having this resurgence of COVID?
Okay. Do you want to?
So there was a moment in November where it might have been Tom, I don't know if it's Tom or Dr. Gates, where we were sitting in a meeting and he said, can you get all 4 elementary schools done this summer? And I think I lost sleep for about a week but we found a way. We're actually completing ahead of schedule. And to the board's credit, to the district's administration's credit, everybody knows the procurement challenges you've been having just to buy a roll of toilet paper or even a car lately. We've been impacted the same way, but they've been extremely flexible to help us out. And as a team, figure out how we can get almost 300 HVAC units in time. So yeah, we're going to get it done. We're pretty happy about that. It wasn't easy, a lot of lost sleep, a lot of long nights, but yeah.
I actually don't have a question. I wanted to take the mic from Doug.
Well, I'd like to answer Doug's question. Well, one of Doug's many questions. Doug, how this will impact the start of school. It is just one extra security layer that we as a school district can provide that other school districts don't have available to them. So that extra, that 35% outside air every 20 minutes that turns over. Yes, our 11 and younger are not vaccinated. Yes, they'll have the option to wear a mask, but the extra layer, and it's, the number one defense against COVID is vaccination. The number 2 defense is masking. The number 3 defense, other school districts are not able to say this, but Kent City Schools can. We have addressed our ventilation. We have improved our outside airflow, and that's what you hear the most about. So to go from 25% to 35% doesn't sound like a lot, but it's huge. So that's what's going to impact starting school in person 5 days a week this year.
I'm scared of microphones, so I'll be quick. I'm maybe the last person to know this, but what's going to happen to the old gymnasium?
Well, the old gymnasium is actually going to be our auxiliary gymnasium. And honestly, I've been in many schools, school districts, and Kent has been the only one that has only one gymnasium. I don't know how we did that for so long. It's really tough to have over 1,200 students in a building with the athletic program that we have and to only have one gymnasium. So I am thrilled to say we're not getting rid of the old gymnasium. In fact, it's in fairly good shape. What we're gaining is we can actually have volleyball tournaments because the ceiling in the old gym isn't high enough for a tournament. So again, it was built back when I don't think people really looked at the size of the gymnasiums, and the new one, we can have a volleyball tournament, and because the ceiling will be higher. But great question. Thank you.
George, with turf going into the stadium, will the utilization of the stadium be different?
I would say yes, because the stadium's being built for all sport athletics that are outside. So we will have soccer, women's and men's soccer. We will have lacrosse. We will have, field hockey. Everyone is going to have access to the new field. The nice thing about it is when it rains, it will drain within an hour's time, and we won't have to postpone much more than an hour. So, and the drainage system that's underneath that field is just amazing. Other questions?
Are there any other questions? I have one, and it goes back to when you were talking about the security system when people are going in. And so I'm not too concerned about anybody in this group not passing the scan test, but I'm thinking about parents who may have a history with the law that, are they going to be forbidden from going into schools to see their children? And I'm just wondering, it's one of those things that I know we have people who've been involved with the judicial system, and I don't know how that works.
Well, Kathy, we do have parents that have one of those items or several of those items on that list that they cannot attend field trips, they cannot attend certain activities. We work with those parents the best we can. And again, it's amazing, but we do have people in those categories. So we have to be cautious. We have to know where they are and why they're there. And if they're there to see their kids, that's different. If they're there to do other things that they shouldn't be doing, that's different as well. So we just deal with it with the individual.
Okay, it occurred to me that might be a problem. Are there any other questions? I'm going to walk back here to Roger Sidoti because, as you know, George, it's a custom of our club to have a responder, and today our responder is Roger Sidoti.
Thank you, Kathy. George, first of all, I just want you to know that as just a citizen in the community who now have 2 grandchildren going to the Kent City schools, that I'm ecstatic over the types of things that you've been doing. The last 18 months have not been easy for school personnel. It's been unbelievable. And as a superintendent, it's been tremendously unbelievable because you are constantly being pulled by a variety of different people, whether they be at the federal government, state government, local government. You're constantly having to answer to a lot of people. But most importantly, you're answering to the students and their parents, and your leadership in that has been outstanding, and I think it should be recognized. The other thing I think that is really fascinating is that where's Tom Larkin? Tom, Tom and I, 20 years ago, used to sit and daydream in my office about when are we going to get the stadium upgrades? When are we going to get another gym? Because we would take our student athletes to these various communities and they're better prepared because they had multiple facilities. We used to have the premier facilities in Portage County. With these upgrades, we're going to have the premier facilities in Portage County. And I think that speaks volumes about your leadership. Also, it speaks volumes of your management. During a pandemic, you're managing a huge endeavor. I don't think anyone can understand unless they've been part of it, what you've had to do in terms of juggling all these balls. So thank you very much. I'm so pleased that you're a member of Kent Rotary, and I'm so pleased that you are doing a great job in leading our school system. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Roger. As we're wrapping up, I have a couple of announcements. A reminder, if you haven't passed around, there should be a pen and a sign-up sheet on every table. Please sign up for lunch for next week. The menu is also traveling around the table. Currently, I have Rachel and Todd as on the Youth Protection Committee. If anyone else is interested, please send me a note. If anybody who is joining us by Zoom is interested, please send me a note. Also, speaking of the Kent schools, on the 24th, August 24th, so I'm terrible with this, 3 weeks from today, 3 weeks from today, we will be meeting at Stanton Middle School in the gymnasium there, or the auditoria. Is that what we call it? The auditoria? Yeah. So, and the door to that is off the parking lot. So on the side parking lot. We're going to be there. There will be a rummage sale going on here, so we won't be here, but we're going to endeavor to do this and have our Zoom participants with us. It won't be quite as smooth as my guess as this is, because we're going to be figuring out as we go. Are there any other announcements? Yes, Randy.
100th anniversary committee.
100th anniversary committee, which is October 23rd. Everybody tattoo that on their hand. But the committee is meeting after this meeting here in this room. And Randy, next week, I think we need to have an extra table. Can we have a 9th table set up? This is awesome. Okay, let's close with the 4-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and bitter friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thanks very much.
I have
One more announcement.
Walt Strauman, long-term member of this group. He was honored for 51 years, died this week.
Oh, so Walt Strauman, who was he was member of the club for over 50 years. He died this weekend. We will look forward to seeing something, I guess, notice about his services. I guess we'll send it out when we get it. And so thank you for sharing that sad news, but he was just here a week or two ago. So amazing. Well, we'll keep him and his family in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you very much. Everyone have a great week.